Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of With Love. Um, if you're new to the channel or if you've never met me before, my name is Love. I am I guess you could call me a retail trader. I've only been trading for a couple years, but I enjoy it and I enjoy doing it with people I like to trade with. And one of those people is Romeo. During this broadcast, we're going to learn a little bit more about him, but it's mainly about discussing what we wish we knew as traders. And I realize that could take that could probably take hours, to be honest. Um, but I feel like we have some interesting stories about how we used to trade, especially in the very, very beginning. And maybe we just do volume one this time or whatever. So without further ado, um, the format of my particular talk show is a talk show, right? I prefer to interview people, and I know people are interested in me, so I will add some little things in there. But mainly, we're gonna dig into Romeo, right? And even before, right? Even before we get to kind of your background and all that good stuff. I want to know what kind of day you had today. Like,
Oh,
what was
I actually had a really, really good day. Remember those Apple puts that I got into in the morning? I just sold them for 35% profit. Uh,
See, that's crazy to me because, again, you'll learn more about me. I'm a swing trader. Rome's is not, right? He can make more in the first 10 minutes than I do all day. And it's just like quick. So those Apple puts, that's double digit. And you were in those, what? How many minutes? I don't even remember. It was
what?
on
No,
our live.
yeah, it was on the live, so I got in and I actually held it all the way till like 2 minutes before the market closed. And I never hold it that
That's a
long,
record, by the way.
right? But I did swing a spy put. I don't do that, but I did swing a spy put.
That's sounding really good for my puts, by the way. Um, yes, yes. Okay. So, Rums, how long have you been trading? Like in general?
2 years, about two
2 years.
years. Yeah.
So I think that's about the same for me. But, as we did our little journey of trading and what we used to trade, I'm not going to mention that on this show today. But it's funny that somewhere along the lines, you kind of became your own teacher,
Mhm.
right? And you started to learn all these techniques and then you kind of shared them with us. And I want to say the biggest one for me, because I like to simplify my trading. What I mean by that is a lot of different things, like just it's like a buffet. You never know what you want to eat when you're faced with everything, but if you just have a couple choices. So the biggest lesson I've learned from you was probably candles, right? I can't believe that I've been trading without understanding what those are. And I'm busy. So even something is understanding like what a candle is and openings and closings and wicks and patterns, all that stuff is crucial. Like I feel like I've been blind before that. So first question to you, what's the biggest lesson that you wish you knew about candles when you first traded?
Well, the first thing is like I wish I knew what candles were, right? We were trading on lines,
No.
and I had to say it. I had to say we were trading on lines, right? And when we looked at candles, we were like, "What is this? Like this has no relevance to anything." It had no relevance, right? We were just trading on no, but I really wish I knew just the fundamentals of what buying wicks, selling wicks was, right? And
Yeah.
just understanding like, hey, well, from tweezer tops to tweezer bottoms, right? Just the basics, right? Not even going into like, hey, this is a doji candle, or this is an inverted hammer, or this is a shooting
All these
star,
words, right?
three white soldiers or black cows, right? Like it's so
So
much
many patterns.
more. Just the most basic candles, like just understanding it. I wish we knew that back then.
Yeah, because I'd been trying to call the top, trying to call the bottom, and doing this without even candles. I don't try to call the top or bottom anymore.
Right.
Um, One of the biggest lessons that I wish I knew um, when I first started trading was volume
Mhm.
and the importance of volume, right? So understanding that you can get stuck in some options that you think are great
Right.
if just because no one's trading that particular strike.
Right.
Like I could be trying to buy like MSTR or Tesla puts or calls at like 133, right? And everybody's trading the 130s and the 135s or something like that. And it's just like, wait a minute, why is my spread so huge and I can't get any fills?
Yeah.
I wish I knew about volume. Um, what's another thing that you wish that you really, really knew? Like one of the hugest mistakes that we used to make.
Well, I mean, definitely wrong. Because remember, we used to get into these KKR
Oh my God.
calls, right? And we had no idea about spreads and volume and all that. We just thought like, hey, it's gonna go up, right? No, but besides that, supply and demand or support and resistance, right? Like we didn't know anything about support resistance levels, and
I don't know much about. So I'm just kidding.
I think that was like one of the, and a very like the new traders, they're so lucky that they didn't have to go through what we went through for the first, in the first year, right? Like they're very lucky. We went through like not knowing what any of that is, like not knowing what support was, what resistance was, right? We just looked at patterns. We said, okay, well, if it hits this, it could go here, right? Just looking at patterns.
We were
And
trading some strange tickers, and it was just one of those times where basically we were in buy the dip situation. So it was easy to recognize, well, if it's a sell off by the,
yeah,
by the dip. And so now, and we were buying some horrible stocks, to be
oh yeah,
honest. Like
yeah.
what is this? Like again, volume on options I was talking about, but also on the stock itself or the ETF. Well,
Mhm.
ETFs have volume, but the stocks itself, like, oh my gosh. Another thing that I wish that I knew was really how to trade out of the money options, right? Because I was like, well, they're really cheap. If I can buy something for like a penny, 2 pennies, or a dollar, however you want to say it, and then double it, it's gonna be great. But it's like, no, that's not how OTMs work. That's
Right.
not what you do, man. Don't do that. Um, so I do wish that I understood that I trade OTMs now. Oh, sorry.
This is a special of the stream, right?
Like this is real life, people. Maybe my dogs will make a cameo for you, but that is Love's life. I just want you guys to know that. He's actually mad at some dog walking by. You know how it is.
Mhm.
These East Coast dogs, they don't play. I don't care how small they are. So, um, volume definitely. But another thing that I wish I knew, like seriously, how to trade. I know it sounds vague, but I was just following people blindly. And I started off as one of those people who got mesmerized by the GameStop AMC thing. I didn't really trade that, but I saw penny stocks and kind of the fame is something that was, something that you do. And I was getting most of my information from Wall Street Bets,
Mhm.
Twitter, and I think it was like Stock Twit or something like that. That's where I was doing my research the night before. Like whatever people were talking about, let me get in. And that's really not how you trade. That's like the most dangerous thing you can do is follow blindly into a trade that you don't understand. You don't know why it's being bought or sold. And next thing you know, whoever's like mentioning it is just like leaving you as a bag holder, right? So I wish I wish I knew more about just trading in general, when to trade, when not to trade, um, and rules. So, what are some of the rules that you used to have that you no longer have?
Oh man, what is the rules I used to have?
Right.
Um,
I know one. I'm not going to spoil it for the people. I'm going
I
to.
mean, like we probably have the same one, right? Averaging down,
Oh,
uh,
that's not the one I was going to pick, by the way.
that's my one, right? Like, I think I did way too much of that, in the past, right? In the beginning,
Okay.
it's buying more contracts on the same ones, and it was a lot of those were like I realized that a lot of those were like weeklies, right? Like it was a lot of weeklies.
Oh, that's a good point
Um,
too.
we rarely used to go out of like months out, right? It was always a weekly. And I think that was like the biggest thing that and we didn't play spy. There was no one knew what spy was.
Oh,
We played
no,
spy.
the only ETF we were trading was UVXY.
Spy,
Remember?
yeah.
Oh my
And we
God.
never
Never
traded like we didn't trade Apple. We didn't trade. We traded Tesla here and
Yes,
there.
but that's one of those things that you used to trade, and I'd be like, "Are you really buying
Yeah.
that?" Like, I would be in the messages like, "Seriously? Are you?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna sell it tomorrow." He's flipping them, which is great, but like that's
Yeah.
what we were doing.
And you know what? We never bought puts. If you remember
Never
that, right?
buy the dip was our only
That
motto.
was it. Yeah, we didn't know about puts. I didn't know what but puts was, right? It was just buying every
I was
dip
scared.
and yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I was like, I don't know what they are. I don't know how to trade them. When literally they're just like the opposite.
Yeah, and another thing is like I don't follow anybody, you know, I follow my own trades and you know, that's something, you know, from the past, right? But that's because I'm able to.
Well, I think all of those things. One, weeklies. I still swing trade. I still get out of the money, but I try to get reasonable trades, and then I try to make sure that I'm buying something that has volume. Like those things combined make me a better trader. But I buy monthlies now, especially on things that I'm buying out of the money for sure.
Yeah.
Um, don't average down because it's like you need to reconfirm your position. You really need to confirm the trend. That's really important. That's not what I thought you were going to say. I
But you
literally,
know, hold on, one more thing though, is risk management. We had no risk management. Like I didn't have a stop
what
loss
was the
in
stop
place.
loss?
What
Like
was that? Like what was the stop loss? I had no stop losses in place. That was
these are all serious things, people. I'm still learning as a trader every day. I try to pick up something, especially on your live streams during the week, because it's like in the moment, right? Even though you scalp and I swing trade, I'm still picking up like what did he see? How did he see that? What are I'll get to EMAs in a minute. But I thought you were gonna say that you let go of your rule of not trading right at open.
yes, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
That was one that I was like, "Really?" Because that's where you're
Yes.
done by, like, 10:15, you're like, "And
Yes.
out." Like, right?
9:30, I'm already in the play. With market just open.
Yeah, yeah. Because remember you were teaching that lesson about, pre-market, right?
Pre-market, yep.
Support and resistance levels, we can get into, supply and demand as well, but for me, being able to look at pre-market really easily and say, okay, I see some levels, right? I see something because again, I like to simplify, and I'm like, yes. So when open, I'm like, yeah, I can identify that trend a little bit faster. But as a swing trader, I don't necessarily get in just because I see something because I know if I'm identifying a trend that's going to reverse, I need that reversal. I don't need the original trend, but I still look at it. But yeah, I was thinking you were going to say,
Yeah.
like,
Remember, I used to teach
like
no training before 11 o'clock, especially on
11 or
SPY.
something like that. That's
Or we
so
used to train at 1 o'clock, you know, like it was just all sorts of craziness. And now it's just like, I'm like, am I gonna? I don't know if I'm gonna get into a trade. And everybody's like, come on, 30 seconds in, you're already in a trade.
yeah,
So
that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Um, Another thing, because somebody is mentioning small accounts, one of the things that I wish that I knew, going back to what you were saying about risk management, stop losses would have saved me from blowing up so many accounts, which is why I had to do so many small accounts because it's like I'm blowing up these huge ones. Let me just see if I can manage something smaller, which is why I take money out every Friday and start over a little bit smaller
mhm.
because, man, risk management and small accounts go hand in hand.
Yeah,
You cannot let things go to zero. You can't let a green trade go red
yeah,
ever in a
ever.
small
Yeah.
account, which means
Yeah,
that I don't care if you're up like $100 and now you're only up $1, you save that dollar. Like you
yeah.
don't let it be red.
I'm reading one of the comments is, "Are you gonna do any small account challenges again?" Right? And you know, just off the, me personally, I don't do challenges anymore. Right? It's you know, like it's not that we can't do it. We'll say like, okay, you know what, we'll work on
Small
we'll
account.
put $100 in and we'll see what we can do with it, right? But I don't like the word challenge anymore.
The
It
only
just
time
feels
we
like
challenge is against each other. Remember, we're supposed to start with,
we start with 60,
like,
right? And yeah, you know,
but
I
then the
think we got
money
into one
side
play with a $30 play, and that was it. Like,
was money though.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't like challenges only not because they. Okay, so realistically speaking, you guys might not know my background, but I used to be an internal and external auditor, um, accounting professor, PhD, MBA, all that good stuff. But half of my PhD is in psychology. And I noticed with some of these challenges that the majority of people don't succeed because they don't, the challenge is a little too ludicrous. Um, They don't keep up with them. It's just there's a deadline, there's extra pressure and stress added onto your trading. And so, what I would rather do is just have, like you coined the phrase, small account marathon, because that's really what it is when you have a small account, you're building, right? So, with a small account, if you turn $10 into 30, that is huge, right? But if on a big account you made 20 bucks, you're probably going to let that go red because you're going to risk it. So, one of the things with small accounts is that what I do is I take normal trades, right? And I'm just more risk aware with my small account,
Yeah.
right? And if you want to be risky, I consider myself a risky trader because of how I trade, not the reason why I trade. Um, and so what I do with my risky accounts, which I know some people hate that, right? They're like, why is she like full porting SPX or something like that? Because that account is specific for
That.
that, right? That's all it is. It's not my main account. It's literally my risk, my YOLO account. So I keep them separate. So I don't over leverage my normal trading account. So you could do that with a small account too, for sure. Um, okay, so one of the other things that I wish I knew as a trader is when to take profit. And I mentioned that only because that is a hugely personal question.
Oh wow.
Right?
Yeah.
People ask that all the time, when to take profit? When should I exit? And it's always so much more complicated than I think they think for us to explain it to them, because I
Yeah.
can't tell you when to take profit. But for you, it can be simple when you see it, right? That's generally the moment. And you're like, coulda, shoulda, woulda, doesn't matter if you're green. Like
Yeah.
literally. We've had date okay. For sure you, right? Because I'll tease you all the time about being paper handed, only to tease him because he's taking profit. Like
Yeah.
you're good. You only play lottos with green or with profit, you're taking profit. But then the next day I'll be like, yeah, that was a 200 to 400% play, right? Like,
Oh, it happens all the time.
but the fact of the matter is you can get back in just
Yeah.
because that trade, like you do this with Apple a lot too. Like
Hmm.
just because one trade that you had went 200%, well, you've probably gotten in and out of Apple like 5 times since then. So you've gathered
Right.
that percent. So when do you take profit? When you see it. Literally, if you have to ask the question, should I take it? You
Take
should.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like when, right?
I think what happens is that most people think that, because they see on Twitter or they see other people like, oh, 1,000% gains and, 10,000 here, but we don't know. We don't know how many contracts they had, right? If they got lucky and they just kept one runner,
Yeah.
and they just kind of let it ride and then be like, yeah, look at the profits. But it's not as easy. Otherwise, everybody would be like that, right? And you still see in the game that people take L's. And,
Oh, absolutely.
you
Huge
know,
ones.
yeah, Love, is she's different, right? She's a beast. Like, she'll
Yeah.
wake up
I'll
and
share my losses though. To
like
look
her
at that.
profits is just like, oh my goodness, like really. And it's funny because we have the same play that I
Oh,
had,
so
the day of, right? And she just holds it through, and
see that. Like literally, but at the same time, I know that holding it carries risk,
yeah,
and I'm accepting that because there have been many trades where he's like, I'm getting out at 80%, and I'm like, no, I'm holding, right?
mhm,
And I have to get out with 30% because it's like I held, it didn't work, but I still made money because I didn't let it go red, right? And it's really, really not that easy to do that. Like seriously,
yeah,
psychologically, we want more. It's never enough, right? And that can be dangerous when you trade. Um, Another thing that I wish that I knew was about how to size, like, right?
mhm.
Because I've in the past I'd let like I was like basically from averaging down, I ended up with like 100 contracts that went to
Contracts, yeah,
zero. It's like, why did I do that? Like, what was the rationale? There's pure hopium, people.
yeah.
So that's one of the things that I also wish I knew. Um, what do you wish that you knew? Because I know someone mentioned how to find your entries. What do you
Mhm.
wish that you knew way back when you were a new trader about picking entries? Because every day you guys do a watch list, right? And it's very detailed about puts and calls for particular stocks.
Mhm.
But I know a lot of work goes into that, right? Every day on the platform. But How do you how do you pick your entries? Like, what do you wish you knew about that? Because I was picking at the wrong part of the candle. I'm just gonna answer that.
I
Mm,
mean, I mean, there's times where we still do, right? Like we make mistakes here and there.
Netflix for me this week.
Uh, I mean, my next fix went green. I got out. The moment it went green,
Today,
right?
yes. Yesterday, not so much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like what I mean, I wish I knew you owe me another live stream. Wow. Well, real quick before I answer that question, right? As a trader, it's like you guys like have to understand that it's not easy trading and streaming at the same time, right? Because it's actually like it could be very stressful, right? Because you're streaming with everybody, you're talking about your play, and
You're like
you know
watching.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and there's times where like you got to be cautious, right? Because you're giving out plays and it could go red, and you're not telling anybody to get in or not, but at the end of the day, I think it's very difficult, and I don't think a lot of people understand how difficult it is to do that
Yeah.
on a daily on a basis.
And you also like for sure, um, you're very risk cautious when you're live streaming,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like you're aware of the fact that people are likely trading smaller accounts, so you
yeah.
buy like in you size a different way. That takes a lot of a trader. Like, I don't know if I could do that. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be honest with you.
And I mean, imagine I'm picking out, and that's where we talk about, entries and all that, right? And I pick out plays where it's cheap enough, but profitable enough for people, right? And you're talking about plays that are 50, $60 and they make 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%.
Some of them
And
40, which you guys just choose those as a small account. Like
yeah.
literally, just pick one of those.
But yeah, like, okay, so if I could go back and or I wish I knew, like, how do I find entries? It's on a trend, right? Like, we never used to play off of a trend. It was always more of, hey, this is a top, this is a bottom, like this could
Not
be
near
it,
the
right?
market.
And I think 2022 really made you think about the trend, right? And remember, there was a time in March where everybody was buying puts, and I kept saying, be careful, play the trend, it's bullish, play the trend, play the trend. Everybody just kept buying puts, buying puts, buying puts, and I'm over here like, no, play the trend, it's calls right now, it's bullish right now. You remember that, love, right? And it was just like,
And I was like,
and I'm the only one that was saying it's bullish right now. And
it like took
um
off. That was
but yeah,
like
like, I wish I knew
best
how to
time.
do the trend, like, and understanding that when you pick a play, like, I wish I knew that. Okay, so say for instance, last year when we were trading Tesla, right? And Tesla was around six something, right? And we wish we knew back then that, okay, well, price can go towards here, so you
Mhm.
don't have to go in the money or at the money contracts. And if
Yeah.
you go further out, like you could go like your monthlies or whatever, and you can pick a play that it could potentially go towards. It doesn't mean that it has to hit that target, but as it moves up, you're going to be profitable, right? And it obviously depends on the time that you have. And we did that with MA, and I think MA is what kind of got me into that role, right? Because when it got to like 300, I'm like, yo, calls at 360 calls for like this time, and they were like, that's so far out the money. That actually went in the money, by the way.
Yes.
And like, and just because you're giving yourself that additional time and price can go that way, I think that's basically how you have to really look at your plays. If you're doing out the money plays, like, figure out where price can go and only pick those plays after that. Like, don't go for like a Apple $200 call for June if it's never even hit 200, right? Like, that's obnoxious, right? You could go with, like, I got into an Apple April call. I did. Um, so, on this drop at 125, I was like, you know what? Like, they're holding it. Maybe I could get a $2 pump. So I grabbed what I grab a 175 call. But I know that my delta is 15, so I'll make $30 off of that play.
That's so true. Okay, so you mentioned Delta and Greeks. I'll get to that in a second because one of the things that I wish I knew was that I didn't have to get into every good play that I saw. Right? I was definitely trading 20 to 25 different stocks at one time, like options, right? I mean, my list would be huge and I was actively trying, man, I don't know how I did. Like, I wish I knew that it's okay to pick 1, 2, or 3,
1 or 2, yep.
maybe an ETF and 2 other stocks I'm interested in at most, and that would be enough, right? I wish that I knew that, but oh my gosh, Greeks. I had
Yeah.
no clue what those are. Like Delta, like seriously, Delta is one of the things that you can quickly just look at, right? And see how your contract's going to move relative to the stock.
Mhm.
Simply, right? And not knowing that, I was buying things that had like 0.07. Like that means my risk reward was not properly
Not
balanced.
a problem. Yeah.
Did not know anything about Delta. Seriously. Um, and then there are a lot of other Greeks that I'm slowly getting into. That and IV, like
Yeah.
volatility, 2 things you can quickly look at to see, like, if your IV is already elevated and you're making money, that's probably a good time to get out because once earnings hit or whatever, it's going to drop down. So what
Well,
else?
what about VIX,
Oh my,
right? We didn't know about VIX and, like, how big of an impact that was on the contracts, right? Like, we had no idea. Imagine knowing that back then, like, how VIX was, yeah.
so I wonder what else do I wish that I knew? Like if I could go back and tell my other self, like, hey, by the way, what would I tell myself? Definitely to
That
take
SPY is gonna go to 472 and then gonna drop all the way down to 365, 360.
Thank it,
That's what
thank
you would
it.
have told yourself.
For sure.
Buy their puts.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I wish I was trading Lucid, right? And I was buying Leap calls. And at the end of the year, I got rid of them. It ran up or whatever. Wish I could go back and tell myself to buy some puts. Like,
Right,
just
right, $6 and change. Oh,
so, what is one thing that you wish that you like right now that you probably should work
SPX. Um,
on?
yeah, like,
I love
I
it.
need to get into it. Like, I do follow it. I think as with the TA that I've accumulated, that I understand, that I know, right? I mean, like, I've looked at it, and I've tried a few times. I get so, like, paranoid at times, but obviously I'm not going to do that when I'm trading, live trading. That's going to be just for when I'm,
In
because,
the
like,
room, doing
not yet, not yet, because I don't want everybody to be like, yeah, like, let's just do SPX, right? Like, it has to
no.
be, it's not as crazy, right? And even though it's SPY, like, understand that SPY became very relative in 2022. Because in 2021, like, I started playing SPY in June, July. And that's when, we started, even as a Discord, like, as our team, like, we started getting a little bit more into it. But
Yeah.
2022 was when people were actually really into SPY, right?
You can just trade that and be wildly successful, to be
Yeah.
honest, right? It's like it moves so well to know its movements, to be able to chart it. You can easily just play that. Like
I like
some
QQQ better. That's just me. That's why I would have told myself, just to learn QQQ more if I was, back
you
then.
also play SQQQ,
Yeah.
and TQQQ, UPRO, and SPXU,
Uh-huh.
right? And all of those things move together. I was afraid of ETFs when I first started, for sure.
After UVXY.
Yes, of course. I have some horror stories. Do I want to do it for this show? No. But I can tell you some of the biggest losses and lessons I learned in another show for sure. Because it's like, I can say my biggest loss ever came from a Friday playing 0 DTEs on UVXY. For
Yeah.
sure.
For
Second
sure.
only by Tiger. Like,
Yeah.
didn't stop.
Let's not talk about that side. I still play it once in a while.
No, I have
I play
PTSD.
puts only on
I
it.
can't. Mm-mm. I play some China stuff, but no way.
I think we should go back to Ebon, right? Was it?
I will hurt you.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna get everybody's into an Ebon call or put watch. I'm gonna take a look at it tomorrow.
No, no.
Does it even exist?
Does it?
I haven't even looked at
And Twitter's no longer there. Who knows? Epon,
it.
just add everything to it. Just take it all. You know what I mean? Um, what else do I wish that I knew? Like, there's so many lessons that were learned, but there were so many mistakes that were made. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, like in a situation that market we had in the first and second quarter of last year,
Hmm.
like knowing what we know now, completely different.
Yeah.
Like completely different. It's a lot harder of a market now. And I think a lot of new traders are finding that out. And like, if there's one thing that I can pass on to them is to learn the fundamentals, right? Don't ask someone what should you do.
Hmm.
Ask them what should you know. Like, and there's a lot.
What
So
about EMAs? Do you think that could have helped you back in the days?
yes, because I use them relative to candles, right? And it's very I'm a simplistic trader for sure. And what I do, I have certain EMAs set up and watch how the candles like open and close relative to them on different time frames. That's
Hmm.
it. That's how I can easily go in and out. Um, and pick my entries and exits. Like, so learning what the EMA 9 means, right? What the 200 means, and how those things interact together completely changed me as a trader. So candles were necessary, man. I can't even
Very
believe
nice.
like it's
Wait,
like driving
I'm
with
gonna.
your
You
eyes.
know what I'm gonna do next week? I'm gonna trade on Monday. I'm gonna trade on lines. I'm gonna, I'm gonna
I
do a live
can't.
stream on lines. So,
You
okay,
heard it here.
guys,
We're gonna trade on. No,
we're gonna go back in time.
no,
Uh, well, in
definitely.
price, yeah, a lot of that comes into play, EMAs and all that. But I think what we didn't do also was that we never journaled, right? We never talked about our plays. And the
Yeah,
cat, like, not only that, the time frames, like 1 minute time frames, 5 minute time frames, like we didn't know about, like, hey, do we trade off of what time frames do we trade off of, right? At
yeah.
that time it wasn't,
1 minute alone, people. Like, just don't do that to yourself.
yeah,
But I wish that I knew that. I wish I understood time frames as well, right?
yeah,
Because I did not. I would just click buttons and see difference and
yeah.
not really understand what that was. I wish that if I was a new trader right now and I had a small account and I'm talking about $50, $100, what is it that you would tell me it was be the biggest lesson that you learned from last year?
If
Or
you had So I was, I had this on the lesson last night. I'll give an example. So if you have an account we'll start off with $1,000, right?
mhm,
Your contract play should not be more than 10% of your portfolio, right? And people are like, well, that's only $100. You know how much like you can do with $100? Like, you have
dude,
no idea. Like, two Apple plays that I gave out yesterday for $45, they sold for like 90 something dollars, right? So
right,
your percentage just went up. Like, you went up 3% on your portfolio day, right? Just by spending $100. So people that have $100 now, that is like, you can't find a play that's like $10, $15, right? It's not as easy because you're gonna be that's more of a risk. Like, you're just
it's either
lotto
super
play.
risky or it's not going to move.
Yeah, right. And so at that time, the max that you want to get into a play is like $50, right? You don't want to use more than 50% off the $100, right? But with that play, you have to have a very tight stop loss. Now, the way that I would tell myself is this, right? If you're taking profits at 20%, your stop loss should be half of that, which is 10%. So if your play is down 10%, you're out of your position, because in your mind, like, you can't break even on everything, right? If you're taking 20% profits and you're taking a stop loss at 20%, you're not making anything. So you have to understand, okay, what if I'm going to set a stop loss, if I'm at 20%, like, normally I tell everybody, hey, it's 20%, you can trail stop, you can take your profits, whatever. But when it goes the opposite way, 10% is, if you're taking profits at 20, you want to get out at 10%, right? Because you don't want to give back more gains on a $50 play. That's $5, right? Like, do you want to give up $10? Do you want to give up $15 or $20? Because now your contract, like, your account is just down 50, like,
Yeah,
it's down a lot.
it's you really have to protect your account when you have a small account. Like literally, it those losses seem like they hurt and they might even add up, but the worst thing you could do is blow it up because then you
Yeah.
have nothing.
No ODTEs, please. Like,
Right.
I know you all want to play Spy and,
I don't
QQQ and all that.
know.
You rather go with like an actual stock, give yourself a couple weeks out, and make money. Like, you can. Like, it's not like, when you see like a trend, right? And you thinking that, like, I'll give you an example, right? You saw today Meta. Meta was just pumping. It went from 124 to about close to 128. In that time frame, had you got into any kind of play for a week out, 2 weeks out, for a $30 play, $40 play, you would have made at least $10 to $20 on that play, right? And you would have made 30, 40, 50%. So you look for things that are moving in a trend up or a trend down, and you play that trend, because with that smaller account, you have better chances of profiting than trying to call the top or the bottom and
Absolutely.
playing WTEs.
Absolutely. And you know what? Since you mentioned that, couple things that the people probably want to know. What are your favorite tickers to trade right now? Like what's on your watch list every day?
So every day I have QQQ. That's my number one play in the morning. I have
That's
Apple.
your watch list, people.
I have Apple. I always have Apple. It doesn't mean I'm going to play Apple. I have Exxon. Um, Yesterday's Exxon calls. Jeez. Uh, Killing myself. Took 30% profit. They went to 150, 200% profit today. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, yeah,
We'll
sorry.
have another show about Rome's paper day.
Yeah,
Trust
yeah.
me.
There's so many. There's so many. Um,
It's a lot. I'm gonna start journaling that. Like
uh,
today, you took
took
2%.
this.
No, but
So what I like to also have is like, okay, if I at least one semiconductors, right, either NVIDIA or
oh
AMD,
yeah, I like those.
or even SOXL, right? So if people are, I love SOXL, and
Gotta keep the ETFs in there, people. Like they're gold.
ETFs are gold. Uh,
Another show, but well, trust me.
you're gonna need two
They're
shows
gold.
for that. Wow.
Yeah, like,
So Love has screenshots of my plays, right? Some of my plays. So yeah, yeah.
you'd be
We'll
like,
talk about
come on, like
that.
really?
Yeah.
I
And then
just
like I'll pick like a Dow
I'll keep
stock.
old ones too. Like I'll keep old plays of yours and then get back in and then diamond hand them and be like, look, 1,000%.
Yeah,
You missed out.
yeah.
No, go ahead.
And then at least one Dow stock, right? So I always like to have
Mhm.
a tech stock, a good tech stock, a semiconductor, and either Exxon or any kind of energy stock, oil stock, and then at least a Dow stock, whether it could be Disney, it could be CCF,
Disney.
CCJ, something like that, right? Because you want to have an idea of what the market in general is doing, not just you know your QQQs or don't stick with one direction, right? Because you can play calls on one and puts on the other side. And we're never biased. I think that's the biggest thing, is that I'm never biased on where the price could go. There's no lighting here. I gotta turn the light on.
That's okay. We still see you. It's kind of like yin and yang or whatever. Um, I think that honestly to be it is getting dark around here.
Yeah,
I noticed that. We
yeah,
live down the street from each I'm just like
yeah. Pretty much like a
but
mile
we do actually live
outside.
fairly close. It is getting dark, I can confirm that. So if I had to say the biggest takeaway, right, from something that I wish I knew, is that you can trade both sides, right? That was huge for me because, like you mentioned earlier in the show, we didn't play puts, and now, like since December, that's been. Can you imagine not trading puts for the last, like, oh
Yeah,
my god, or not even the fourth quarter to now would
yeah,
have is huge.
yeah.
So those are definitely a lot of things that I wish I knew. If I had to give you guys final parting words, um, it would be to again take profit. Um, I joke with Rome's a lot about diamond handing, but that's because if I have enough contracts, I can scale out. I'm
Mhm.
taking profit. I'm diamond handing with like even if those I accept the risk and those go down low, which I'm not gonna let them go red per se, but maybe I had huge profit. Like today on the on SPY, I think I was at 220% for one of them, took profit. The other one went down 180. I was like, well, I'm still gonna take that profit. I'm not gonna cry over spilled milk. It is to take profit often because this market is giving you opportunities over and over again, multiple times in a day. So you
Mhm.
don't have to like hold on and say, well, I hope it goes back up. You can actually get back in. Even if you are on a margin account, all I would do is I get a different strike and I swing it, or I get different expiry and swing it. So if I have Tesla puts, I sell them for profit in the morning, wait, buy some for next week, you know? So you can still get around that, but and still take profit and enter and re-enter.
Yeah.
Um, that would be my biggest takeaway. What would be the one thing that maybe you said or didn't say that people should know, like as they're trading?
Uh,
It's not
uh,
asking down. Like,
um, it's as it's not. So people think that it's hard, right? But it's actually not if you're actually like really determined. It's leaving
diligent.
your emotions out of the trades, right? Revenge trading, stop
True.
with the whole revenge trading. Like if you take like I have a set rule for myself: 3 L's and I'm done for the day, right? Regardless of what it is. It could be a $5 loss, 2%, 5%, 10%. When I get 3 L's, like I'm done. Even with the wins, right? Like once I get to, if I like you'll see me at 10 o'clock, I'm pretty much almost done. Like I might get one more play. I'll be like, I might just get one more play. But after that, like I'm done. Like I
10-15,
don't,
he's like, this is it.
this is it, and you got to stick with that because you get, that overconfidence can kick in, that cockiness can try to kick in, or you trying to make more than, just because there's no reason to, right? Like once you hit your goal or once you hit that time period, like 10 o'clock, like my mind is already like, all right, I think I'm, I should be done now. Like,
It
why am I even
starts
getting into
with
a play? Yeah.
right?
Like who says that 30 minutes in the market open and I'm already like, all right, like done, right? Uh,
That list from yesterday was impressive. It's on the platform for sure, but it was like all of this happened before 10:15.
yeah.
One more Apple Play after that. That
Yeah.
was so definitely diligence. You mentioned um, discipline for sure,
Yep.
and determination. Those are kind of the three things that have also
Learn.
us as traders.
Yeah, and learn, like take the time to learn. If you want to, like, don't gamble, right? Like learn, like sit there and learn, like watch lessons, and don't try to just just get in things just because everybody, like Love said, don't follow blindly, but like actually pay attention to what people are teaching you. Because Love
Yeah,
does a great job of actually, like, if you go into her section, like she writes a lot in it. Like I write, like she's a professor, so I'm just like,
nice.
oh, I don't want to quiz on a test on this, but I got to read it.
Did you
Um,
read it? You do give homework. Don't play. You actually you do give homework, and it's serious. It's like
yeah,
this is going to help you as a trader. Let me see your charts. And it's like Rose is serious talking about me as a
I'm
trader.
serious.
So that's cool. All right, I think that's enough for the first episode of With Love. I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you
I'm
having me
gonna make you come on a lot more because I think there are certain topics that we could, even if it's just briefly, be like, yeah,
on.
UVXY and Tiger by themselves
Yeah.
deserve a show.
There's a lot more than those, by the way, people.
No,
We're not talking about
no.
that right now.
But thank you guys for joining me. I hope those of you who can watch later after work and record find something that you enjoyed about the show. Um, for sure, if you're not on the platform, make sure that I can't. We're doing some sort of special right now, so you can join at least the public side. You can see what special is going on, but there's a wealth of information, different rooms. We've got the high risk and the high roller room, my favorites.
Mhm.
Um, we've got amazing analytics that I use every day, like literally. I use flow information a lot, but the education section is my favorite. There's videos, there's charts, there's your live recordings. There's so many things that we have that just
Yeah.
especially the beginner questions, the beginner like lessons, all those things just help people at their own pace.
I think you need to get Beefinger and Drake on soon too. Like
I
these
know.
guys.
And I think of
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask B if he can like
Yeah.
chart live for me just because
Yeah.
I ask him to chart for me every
So
single
Beef's a much better charter than I am, right? Like
day.
I think he is, even though he's gonna be like no Rome's. Like I think he
I'm gonna
is.
ask nicely. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, you can just use your avatar or your chart. Come on. For sure. Because you guys, we have some beasts. Those watch lists
Yeah.
are hard to make. I know because I've tried and I said I would never do that ever, ever, ever. Even after you did a live lesson of how to do it, the
We'll
levels.
do it, right?
I was
Yeah.
just like, no, let the experts do it. But I appreciate them so much. I appreciate everybody on our platform.
Yeah.
I like that we're a family and we've grown together for sure.
Oh,
Um,
we've been there since day one, you and I. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I'm like, "Are you sure you're gonna buy that Tesla?" Like,
Yeah.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great." I'm like,
Like, "Love, did you get in?" Yeah, I got into a different one."
like,
"What did you get into?"
"Did you buy its 720 call?" He was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." I'm like, Why?" He's like, "Watch this." The next day, he's like, "I made $80 on it." So it's been a long journey, and I appreciate every moment of it, but I'm more appreciative of the fact that as we've grown, we've helped each other grow that way too. Like, I'm not a chartist. I didn't know anything about candles, but you, Drake, Beefinger for sure, all of you guys, like, were like, "Hey, let me show you." Right?
Yep.
And I appreciate that. That's one of the other things I appreciate about, but I wish I knew that I can lean on my family a lot more. So that was great too. But okay, guys, we're gonna sign out. Thank you so much for joining us, and I
Yep.
hope that you can watch this many times later, right? And look forward to other episodes, and also our next or not live stream with Rome's on the platform. Probably tomorrow's Lotto Friday, so probably sometime next week. Definitely look forward to that. All right.
And next time I'll have better lighting, so it
I
doesn't.
actually like it. I know, like, our producer is gonna be like, "Dude, no." I'm like, I think it's pretty cool." Like, it's just can we keep it? Can we have
Can
it?
we keep
No?
it?
No? No.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you guys very, very
Thank you.
much. We appreciate you guys, and we're signing off.